Welcome to Adventures in Landlording. Each episode, we pack our bags and hit the trail to answer some of the many questions plaguing landlords across America. I'm Jonathan, and this is Krista.
It's true.
How you doing, Krista?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Love to hear
It's
it.
been a minute since we did this show.
Full 6-month minute, I hear.
You don't have a watch on.
It's a freckle past a hair.
It's a joke my dad used to tell. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm here for the dad jokes.
All right. Well, our first segment comes from Reddit, and it is posted by user chance_mind_6627. And it says a Redditor found asbestos in his basement after landlord said there was none, according to a city inspector. It is a pipe wrapped in what looks like a whole bunch of asbestos, which is just like tearing apart and falling all over the place. As we know, in the year 2024, asbestos is not something you want torn up and falling all over the place. Krista, what are your first thoughts seeing this image?
It's definitely not something you want to see. And it's quite frankly, the whole picture, I don't really even know what to look at. The ceiling seems to be coming apart. The pipe itself looks like something out of a horror movie. Mm-hmm. I don't feel comfortable. I would feel upset.
Yes. Yeah, the pipe, from this angle, it does kind of look like a sandworm from Dune.
Okay, see, that's what I was thinking. It looks like it's going to eat me, and
yes.
I don't appreciate that.
It might.
Or
maybe it'll just rub you in asbestos.
I don't like that either. No good options here.
Yeah, and also, like, in the image at the top here, you can see the paint is peeling as well. There are problems. But let me back up and talk about lead-based paint for a moment. This is similar. This is related, okay? When I sold my house a few years ago, the buyer wanted assurance that there was no lead-based paint in the home. The issue was the home was built in 1952.
Dun, dun, dun.
What's the cutoff year for lead-based paint disclosures?
1978.
Yes. So anything before 1978 probably has lead-based paint, unless it's been remediated or, I don't know, or they were just real ahead of the times whenever they painted.
Yeah, time travelers purchase property too.
That is a fact, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so it gave me pause when they said, hey, give me assurance there's no lead-based paint. The reason they were wanting that assurance is they had an infant. Understandable. You don't want your infant eating paint chips, getting mutations.
Ideally not.
Bad stuff, right? So I actually talked to a remediation expert for a long time. He was a very chatty guy, great guy. He didn't even come out. He actually just talked to me about what my options were. And he was basically like, look, I can come out. I can do this fancy X-ray tool thing that we use to see if there's lead-based paint. And he said, probably, given the age of the home, there is lead-based paint. It might be like 9 paint layers below whatever you currently have on the walls, but it's probably there. And he said the thing about that is, as long as you aren't disturbing it, if you're not like doing a hardcore renovation, cutting into the walls, ripping out walls or windows or something, it's fine. It's not really going to mess with you. Now, it does mess with you if you peel off the lead-based paint and chew on it for a while. That's where it gets bad. But the other thing that was interesting about this is, since I was selling the house, if I had the test done and it came back positive, I'd have to tell anyone else that the house does have lead-based paint. If I had done it to make that buyer happy, and then the buyer said, oh, actually, we don't want to mess with that, and they pulled out, I'd have to tell anyone else, just so you know, I've got a positive test result for lead-based paint. And even though we all pretty much can look at a house from 1952 and say, yeah, it's probably in there.
Yeah.
It still might give people pause.
Sure.
So in the end, I didn't do it. And the buyer bought the house anyway. They were like, okay, cool. It makes sense. It's a similar thing with asbestos. That's why I bring this up. If you're not ripping the asbestos out, if it's not exposed, if it's, stored deep in the walls, you're probably fine. Now, this picture, it's not deep in the walls.
That is not deep enough to be fine.
No, that's right there. So, I don't think we have enough context to see why it's right there. Like, it looks like some pipe is missing. So I don't know if somebody just came in and like, I'm going to get out of here with just this length of pipe and leave the asbestos hanging. But as pictured, that's a problem.
That is a problem. Also, I'm no pipe expert, but I don't understand why it's open right there. Unless it's like a little rat hole where rats could go in. They have a little colony or something. Still something you'd want to report to someone. But like, there are just so many questions that this story raises.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't like
because
any of them.
what is the pipe? I mean, is it HVAC? Because if so, you probably need a vent on it. Something, right?
I would imagine so. If you're an HVAC expert, please weigh in the comments below. We are very curious.
And same with asbestos. You know, this Reddit thread, there's a lot of asbestos experts weighing in here and saying that the fibrous asbestos is the bad stuff. That's the stuff that if it's exposed as this one is, you're probably breathing it in, and that's where you can get the health problems that has made asbestos a thing of the past. But yeah, I don't know. Asbestos is bad stuff. As one comment put it, the inspector tried as best as he could.
Ba-dum-punch.
All right, if this was your rental, what would you do?
Cry. But after I got done crying, I would look to remediate the situation immediately. I mean, this just doesn't feel safe. The fact that the tenant has access to this space and is presumably paying for it in some regard is just absolutely unacceptable. So I would bring in some kind of expert. I don't know if that's a city inspector. I don't even need an inspecting license to know. That's no good.
That's bad.
That's bad news bears.
That's bad.
So I'd probably just see what is my next step with this kind of situation and then bring in those experts, maybe collect like 3 quotes, but move with urgency.
Yeah.
You know, this is not something to dilly-dally on. This is not a light bulb that needs to be changed. This is a carcinogenic. So do something fast and apologize thoroughly to your tenant. I would say give them money off rent, but I tend to be soft, so...
Yeah, I mean, this would be a situation, first of all, you wouldn't remediate this yourself.
No, do not DIY. We are fans of DIY here at TurboTenant. Not this time.
Not
DIY.
asbestos, especially this amount of asbestos with it hanging. You don't want to touch that stuff.
Not.
Pay someone and find someone who knows what they're doing. Don't just pay some dude. And also, you're going to want to get your tenant out of there. Pay for a few days in a hotel and get it taken care of, because even if that tenant moves out, the next one is going to look at that and say, I don't want to live here.
Yes, this is a problem that only gets worse. So please, act quickly.
From finding your new favorite tenant to automating rent collection, TurboTenant has the tools you need to thrive as a landlord. Get started for free at landlordpod.com today and tell them the podcast sent you.
All right, so we talked about ways that your property could hurt someone via asbestos.
Yes.
Did you know there are more ways that people could get hurt on a property?
If it's haunted.
That's the biggest one that we hear about. But actually, this story from Talk to Me Horse talks about stairs instead of hauntings. But it'll scare you all the same.
Okay.
So, Talk to Me Horse said, I got a weird voicemail from my very high-maintenance tenant. He said that he had fallen down the flight of stairs in the house and broken a couple of ribs and was in the hospital.
It's a serious fall.
That is very serious. How do other landlords deal with this situation? Do you just forward the communication to your insurance? Okay, what are your initial thoughts to this?
Well, we're missing a lot of info, obviously. Did the person fall down? Did the tenant fall down the stairs because the stairs are irregular in some way, or they're lacking a handrail where they should have had one? Or did they just trip on the stairs?
We do not know. But those are really good questions. And actually, that's the first thing that a landlord should consider if this kind of situation happens. When we talk about personal injury lawsuits, so scary. That's the sound of people being scared.
I thought maybe that was like people cheering. Like,
no.
Like personal injury lawyers.
They're screaming. Oh my God. It works both ways.
Yeah,
it's both the cheering of personal injury lawsuit lawyers and the lawsuit lawyers, and also the screams of the people who are being injured. No. Inherently, when we are facing one of these situations, what you need to look at is the context of everything that went on. So, to your note, were the stairs weird? Were they not up to code? Is there something going on here that the landlord should have been able to predict and thus prevent from happening? Or is it a situation where the tenant just simply is a little bit clumsy? As a member of the clumsy club, I get it. Sometimes you fall over.
Sometimes you fall.
You just do. Gravity works against you many days of the week, or at least it does for me. But also, was the tenant drinking? Were they distracted? Yeah. Was there an animal that ran underfoot? We don't really know some of these key details. So as the landlord in this case, what you should do first is check in on your tenant. First of all, you need to be empathetic. Even if this is, as the poster says, a very high maintenance tenant, they still deserve your empathy and understanding, right? So you're going to want to check in and say, hey, I'm sorry that happened. Or, how are you feeling? Let them tell you, right? You also want to get more context for the situation. You can invite that context. You can say what happened, or you could let it go at that point.
Yeah.
I know, kind of weird. But if they don't specifically mention, oh yeah, I tripped because there's no handrail on the stairs, or I tripped because I put in a maintenance request for that third step. It's been sticking up for 10 months and you haven't fixed it. And I finally ate grass from all of this, as the saying goes.
Sure.
Then at that point, you're going to be in a crock of trouble. Because specifically, according to alllaw.com, landlords are responsible for tenants' injuries only when the landlord's action or inaction causes or contributes to the injury.
Yeah.
There are quite a few different factors that go into that when you're trying to establish negligence in a personal injury lawsuit. So the court is specifically going to consider, 1, who has control over the dangerous situation? So your upkeep of the stairs is going to play into effect here. You also are going to be looking at whether or not you knew about or had warnings of the potential danger. This is where maintenance requests come in.
Mm-hmm.
To that same note, how foreseeable the accident was. If you don't have handrails, first of all, consider this your sign. Put in some damn handrails. People need them. I don't care how good they are at walking. You need handrails. At least I do. So make it happen. Also, as a landlord, you have the burden of reducing danger, and that's for everyone, but this really gets amplified if you have minor tenants.
Yeah.
So we are talking about an adult tenant getting hurt, not even getting into the minor stuff, but when you do have minor tenants in a property, you assume even greater burdens to make sure that they stay safe, because there's an understanding that kids are going to mess around. Kids being kids, they love climbing, they love jumping, so you need to make sure you're going above and beyond to keep your property and your tenants safe. The courts are also going to look at what actually caused the injury. So, if someone fell over themselves, or if there was, let's say, a nail sticking up in the board, all sorts of things can happen on the stairs. All of this is going to come into account, and the courts are going to try and weigh out what percentage of fault was whose. And that is a whole crock of worms we could definitely get into. But for this situation, as the poster requested, should they send this over to their insurance right away? No. They should not. It sounds like they just need to check in with their tenant, say, hey, how are you doing? And if you want to ask what happened, you can. If they don't make mention of it being the property or start using terms like liability, negligence, your fault, attorney, those should be red flags waving in the wind, where you come in and you're like, all right, this is my time. I'm going to contact my attorney. I might forward this to my insurance company. You should also require renter's insurance so that if something happens on a property that you have extra backup, they have extra backup to get it taken care of.
Also, this is where condition reports would come in very handy. You should always do a move-in and move-out inspection, hopefully with your tenant there. So in this case, if they had done a move-in inspection with this tenant there and they had filled out a condition report and nowhere on there did anybody even notice anything funky with stairs, well, that's gonna help in this situation. Because if this tenant then tries to get a lawyer and says the stairs were screwed up, they're not to code, whatever, you have proof that it was not an issue that either one of you flagged previously, and that's going to help you. Also, I will point out, if for some reason, and again, we don't have that much info, so if for some reason these stairs were like built by the landlord, you can do that, but for sure get an inspection. Mm-hmm. I actually just went through the inspection process. It wasn't terribly fun, but I did do it, right? And now I have proof that an inspector who knows more about things than I do has said, yeah, this is up to code. You're all good. If you're building stairs or a deck, there's a deck subreddit that is just a wild place because people do crazy things with decks, and much of it is nowhere near code. And they figure, well, it's just me living in the house. I own the house. Who cares? But then if you start renting it out, someone's going to care.
Yeah. Or you go to sell it. I mean, anytime you're doing a major renovation like that, if you are not someone who does that kind of work day to day, I would highly recommend at least getting some insight from a professional, if not fully bringing them in. That might just be me, but I'm not super handy.
Yeah. And stairs, it should also be noted, there's a very standardized way of doing it. That's why most stairs that you walk on in life are exactly the same. There's a specific measurement on what is it? The rise and the other part?
The width.
Someone out there knows stairs stuff. Leave it below. But there's a very specific measurement on how high they should go up. And like, I've been to the Winchester Mystery House. It had funky stairs.
Yeah, to trip people and hurt them.
Yes. So if that's what you've got going on here, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
But if they're normal stairs, I think you're good.
I think you're good. If you want to go above and beyond, you can ask if there's anything that you can do to make the stairs safer. Just know that you should then probably follow up and do the things they request if they're reasonable, like adding a light or adding handrails. I really harp on that one because I think they're so important. But either way, you just got to take it one step at a time. Are you looking to have free condition reports at your disposal anytime, any day, any night? Sign up for TurboTenant.com and we have all the condition reports you could ever possibly want for free.
All right, our last segment comes from the great state of Washington. You been there?
I have.
It's nice.
It's never been the same since.
Oh. All right, this is from Reddit. The poster is named Count Pot. Count Pot with 2 T's.
Oh.
And they say, tenants asking us to pay for outdoors camera due to package theft. They say, our tenants, Washington State, have had a package stolen and are asking us to put up the cost of a camera, and they offered to cover the subscription service cost. As far as I know, this isn't on us. I get the package theft is super annoying. It's never happened while we lived there, but it does happen, and I would be livid and feeling unsafe. So, first thought.
Porch pirates.
Porch pirates. Yeah.
Yeah.
In preparing for this episode, we both talked about Mark Rober.
Yeah.
I hope I'm saying that name right. The YouTuber who made the glitter bomb porch pirate videos. Very fun. Anyway, porch pirates are awful. They're the scum of the earth, right? But they do happen. It's not the landlord's fault. The landlord can't be held liable unless... Were they the porch pirate?
You the porch pirate?
Are you the porch pirate?
Stop it. You're already collecting rent. Don't collect packages too.
All right, so assuming the landlord isn't the porch pirate, they're not on the hook for doing anything here. Absolutely, they don't have to give a camera. They don't have to cover the cost of it or the subscription cost. We actually did a whole episode of our other podcast, Be a Better Landlord, about security cameras. We'll link it below. But basically, in there, we say you definitely shouldn't do an interior camera in your rental. And actually, since we made that episode, Airbnb has completely banned interior cameras in any Airbnb short-term rental. They're not a good idea for so many reasons.
So many reasons.
I don't think we need to go into it. I think you get it. But here, we're talking about exterior cameras. Exterior cameras can be a good idea. Our last episode of this show, we talked about a Frogger, which, real quick, Krista, what's a Frogger?
It's not the ribbit friend you were thinking of. In fact, it is someone who is living inside the unit without your tenant's knowledge. So they are not in cahoots with your tenant. It is a very scary situation, living in the walls, crawl spaces, anywhere that they could get into for any number of mischievous/criminal reasons.
Yeah. So if you had that kind of situation at your rental, then maybe an exterior camera would be a good idea because you could catch them coming or going. Hopefully stop that. But in this case with porch pirates, having a camera there is not going to stop them. They're probably going to still steal the packages, and you'll just now have video evidence of them stealing packages, which is still going to be really frustrating. Your tenant saying that they were going to cover the subscription cost, because most of these cameras do have some kind of monthly cost to them. Good, I guess. But why couldn't they also then just cover the cost of the camera?
Yeah, I from the tenant point of view, I can understand where they're thinking, okay, I feel maybe unsafe with my packages coming here, so I want my landlord to take action because I'm renting their property. But to your point, it's not necessarily a space where the landlord has to jump in both feet and just purchase a bunch of cameras. There are some compromises, though, and I think treating this with empathy and saying, hey, I hear what you're saying. This is so frustrating. In the post, they even echoed that, right?
Yeah.
Like they're connected to it. And finding a different solution would be best case scenario.
Yeah.
Do any jump to mind?
Lockable parcel boxes.
What a fun thing to say.
It's a nice phrase, isn't it? Parcel.
Parcel.
We don't use the word parcel enough anymore. in the modern world. But anyway, you can get them in a variety of sizes, but they can get quite large, as we learned just before recording. They lock, and they have a code that you can give to your delivery person. And they just open it up, they put the thing in there, they shut it, it's locked. So for a porch pirate to steal your package, they'd have to take the entire parcel box, which some of these look pretty hardcore and steal.
Yeah.
They'd have to be determined.
And that'd be even scarier, but less likely to happen. And also, I will say, if you purchase something like that, one, it's tax deductible. And two, you can then use it as a feature moving forward when you're marketing your listing and say, hey, I've got this great parcel box. It's yours to use. Just rent my unit for $13.50 per month.
Wow, just $13.50?
Just $13.50.
I would have paid that just for the parcel box. Another consideration, we don't know really what this rental unit looks like, if it's a single family home, etc. If there's a garage, you could have packages delivered to the garage. Amazon does a thing where if you're comfortable giving them access, they actually could open your garage door, put the package in there, shut the garage door. Some people find that creepy. Some people find that very convenient. I think if all my packages were getting stolen, I would lean towards convenient.
Convenience is key.
Convenience is key. Yeah, and if the tenant wanted the landlord to buy the outdoor camera because they're thinking it's something that's going to have to be permanently or at least semi-permanently affixed to the house, like a doorbell, for instance, there are a lot of options now for exterior cameras that are not permanently affixed, and there's even some that you can, magnetically mount up high, and they're powered by a solar panel, so like you wouldn't even have to do any electrical work. If the tenant was really interested in it, I would steer them that direction. That it's something that they could put up there, they could cover the cost, wouldn't drill new holes in the exterior of the house, and they could take it with them when they leave.
Exactly. That's a win-win. We love to see it.
We love win-wins. That's it for this adventure in landlording. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to subscribe on your podcast player of choice and on YouTube so you don't miss any future episodes. If you have any feedback or you want to share your own adventure in landlording, check us out at landlordpod.com.